to me then, I bet they feel me now. Time don't let me lose it. The booth not about to prove it. I set goals and pursue it. You the best to never do it. Invest my money talking fluent, stupid, ducking the Judas. It broke my heart, but over my eyes, you have no honor, I have no choice. Chasing the commas till I'm gone. I've been left for a minute. On my way home, mama, I promise, got caught up in it. Damn. Everybody eats when I'm batting at the plate. First, second, third, home, $1 million base.
What's up, people? We back. Hope everyone's doing well. In case you're not familiar, I am
that Hotep Jesus dude.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Hotep Jesus? I love that guy. He's terrific.
I gotta adjust the volume on that one. Still working on the Scott Adams clip. We'll get that right. Anyway, wonderful presentation for you today. But before we get into that, let's quickly pay some bills. Shout out to my sponsor, Syscoin, the best of Bitcoin, the best of Ethereum. After today's presentation, if you're not convinced why you need decentralized money, hopefully you will be after today's presentation. Shout out to Syscoin, wonderful project, wonderful team. Shout out to Jag, Patrick, and Alex over there. Also, HotepCon tickets on sale now. We're meeting up in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Ahern Hotel. Go get your tickets at hotepnation.com. Hit the HotepCon button and go to hotepnation.com/HotepCon. I hope to hang out with you guys there. We got 3 days, all-inclusive tickets. Includes your all your meals, hotel room, and activities. And a little extra activity as well is the gun range with Cannon Hotep. What else we got? Of course, I'm doped up off of Master Focus. It's the thing that helps me stay on task, keeping me focused, keeping my brain sharp. It's like NOS for your brain. So, with that being said, let's hop into today's presentation. But first, I want to go over what you can expect from today's presentation. First of all, what I believe you can expect is an understanding of how there was communism before communism in early America. So we're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into this case law here. We're going to talk about central banking. We're going to talk about credit within the hands of the state. And we're going to talk about crypto and the implications of crypto and the CBDC. So with that being said, let's hop right into the presentation. And this is from my title, The Patriot Report, Unmasking the Conspiracy of Money and War, which is now available on Amazon and HotepJesus.com. If you want to participate in today's presentation, which is going to be documented in the records of history here on the Tube and Rumble. We're on Rumble at Hotep TV. Go ahead and super chat us. You can super chat us on here, or you can super chat us over on Rumble. So with that being said, let's hop right in. So today's presentation branches off from McCulloch versus Maryland. This is a case in 1819, and we're going to read from the book here, and then we'll get into some other sources in a bit. So I wrote here, many states banned the central bank outright or taxed it. So basically what happened is Second Bank of the United States, which is in this series, the Patriot Report series, which we covered previously a couple of chapters ago, I believe, here in this document. You guys can go read up on that right here, Second Bank of the United States. So the Second Bank of the United States has been established. This is technically the third central bank in the United States. Well, people aren't too happy, specifically Maryland. So it says Maryland's approach was the latter. They took aim at the Maryland branch of the central bank by passing an act which levied a stamp tax on all printed notes. Basically, Maryland said, we don't like you, so we're going to tax you. Now, the way this stamp tax law was laid out, the options were pay the tax to obtain specially stamped paper, or pay an annual tax of $15,000, which today, adjusted for inflation, is about $235,000, $236,000. It says every violation would incur a $500 fine for the bank and $100 for the individual. So that's about $2,400 adjusted for inflation to the individual. It says here, after several notices from the state, bank cashier James McCulloch refused to pay the tax. McCulloch was sued for $110, which was the penalty for circulating unstamped banknotes. Obviously, Maryland won this case in its own state courts, but an appeal was sent to the United States Supreme Court. Now, you guys know the Supreme Court is supposed to uphold the Constitution. So it says here, the case surrounds two questions. Did Congress have the constitutional authority to establish a national central bank? And second, did Maryland have the constitutional authority to impose a tax on the central bank? So, arguing on behalf of Maryland was their Attorney General, Luther Martin, and arguing for the central bank was Daniel Webster, who would later become the 14th and 19th Secretary of State for the United States. The two sides argued for 9 days, February 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 28th, March 1st, and March 2nd of 1819. Now, let's just keep one thing in mind here. 9 days? Only 9 days of arguments? For one of the most important decisions ever made in the United States of America, Supreme Court? I think that's a crime. This thing should have been argued much longer. Anyway, and spoiler, there was a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court justices. Completely unanimous. I think it was 6-0. Martin argues that Congress does not have the power to charter banks, and the Constitution does not specifically state that states cannot excise a tax against the bank. He argues, we insist that the only safe rule is the plain letter of the Constitution, the rule in the 10th Amendment that the powers not delegated to the United States nor prohibited to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Now, Martin counters and he cites the 10th Amendment, which says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited to the states are reserved to the states respectively to the people. In addition, he cites Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, which I will include here for context and convenience. So it says here, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. And the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit delay. Okay, so we continue here. It says clearly Article 1, Section 10 specifically states that that states cannot levy a tax against central banks. I'm sorry, does not state. It does not state that states cannot levy a tax against central bank. It mentions imports, exports, forebodes them from creating a fiat currency, but it doesn't especially forebode them from levying other kinds of taxes. In my opinion, Luther has an open and shut case. On the subject of whether or not Congress has the implied power to establish a central bank, Webster cites the last paragraph of Article 1, Section 8, which states that Congress has the power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper. His argument continues, a bank is a proper and suitable instrument to assist the operations of the government. That's a very vague statement here. So a couple of notes here. It says this is an implied power. The powers are not exactly named. And I would argue this is very vague, open-ended, and leaves loopholes for the gross growth of a federal government. And we're going to dive into that a little bit in a moment here. So on the second question of whether or not states have the right to levy taxes against the central bank, Webster argues, if the states may tax the bank, to what extent shall they tax it? And where shall they stop? His most infamous argument in the case was an unlimited power to tax involves necessarily a power to destroy. Now look at this. Look at this quote right here. Look at this quote right here. What is it? The 16th Amendment? Come on, bro. What do we have right now? An unlimited power to tax involves necessarily a power to destroy. So this guy is making an argument right now against the IRS. He's making an argument right now against 1913. The very same institution that was later on to be created, the same laws that were created, I think the 1911, 1912, 1913 is when they started the income tax. Anyway, let's continue. It says, the Supreme Court came to an unanimous decision on March 6, 1819, ruling in favor of the central bank. So I included here John Marshall's arguments. And this is the Chief Justice. And it says, we'll get into the notes in just a moment. As you can see, I have them here. The third Chief Justice of the Supreme Court parroted Webster's argument when he said the power to tax implies the power to destroy. If the states may tax one instrument, may they not tax every other instrument? This was not intended by the American people. So let's look at his arguments, Chief John Marshall's arguments. So additional arguments here. Hopefully you can see that on the screen a little bit. Let me see. Let me slide that over a bit for y'all. Okay, that should be good. He says here, Chief Justice John Marshall, we think the sound construction of the Constitution must allow to the national legislature that discretion with respect to the means by which the powers it confers are to be carried into execution, which will enable that body to perform the high duties assigned to it in the manner most beneficial to the people. Most beneficial to the people. Let the end be legitimate. Let it be within the scope of the Constitution in all means which are appropriate, which are plainly adapted to that end, which are not prohibited, but consist with the letter and spirit of the Constitution, are constitutional. So basically what he's saying here is if it's not prohibited by the Constitution, then it stands. So he continues here. He says the powers granted to Congress are not given by the people of a single state. They're given by the people of the United States. to a government whose laws made in pursuance of the Constitution are declared to be supreme. Consequently, the people of a single state cannot confer a sovereignty which will extend over them. In translation here, basically he's saying is, if the state is in conflict with the federal law, then federal law trumps it, supersedes, overrides. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Thank you, Eric, for the super chat. We're going to get to that in just a moment here. So let's continue. On the first question of whether or not Congress has implied power to create a central bank, Marshall says a law passed by Congress is supreme within its sphere of action. Congress has the authority to pass all laws necessary and proper as implied in Article 1, Section 8. Real quick, let's just pause right here because we're almost done with this section. Then we're going to go into some other material here that is more relevant to you today, as if this isn't already relative enough. But I believe it's number 5 on the 10 planks of communism, centralization of credit within the hands of the state. And I believe Lenin is quoted as saying that 90% of communizing a nation is to install a central bank. So what we have here is definitely a Marx-Lenin dream. Now, I believe that the Communist Manifesto wasn't written until maybe 1871, 73, somewhere's about. And this is 1819. So this is Marx before Marx was Marx. Okay. So let's continue. It says, following the Supreme Court decision, Thomas Jefferson said of the Supreme Court justices, a subtle core of sappers and miners constantly working underground to undermine the foundations of our constitutional fabric. Now I continue and I say, is it any coincidence that Chief Justice John Marshall was an investor in the Second Bank of the United States? Just in case you're not following, Second Bank United States gets passed. We have a central bank, United States, the third central bank. Chief Justice John Marshall sitting now on the Supreme Court after investing in this said bank. Obviously, he has an invested interest. But as it continues here, it says apparently he sold his stake before ruling in the case. And I asked the question, I posed the question, was this so he could not be exposed for conflict of interest? But his friends are surely still invested. No? I mean, one would have to assume so. One would have to assume that his colleagues, his cronies are still invested in this bank. So then he stalls his bank, goes in the Constitution, then affirms this bank. Now, Fred Buzzio from Mises.org, shout out to Mises and the Mises Caucus, argues that this case is responsible for the incredible growth of federal authority. And it is. If you want to look at why the federal government is so big today, this is one of those cases you need to look at. It says here, this ruling plainly laid the precedent that federal law was superior to state law. Darren A. Wisely argues that this decision is, quote, a complete abomination to the federal system the founders had set in place. Andrew Jackson included this quote here from the great President Andrew Jackson. Let's be controversial here and say one of the black presidents. I'll leave that aside, let you guys do your research on that. Andrew Jackson says, I was one of those who do not believe that a national bank is a national blessing, but rather a curse to a republic, inasmuch as it is calculated to raise around the administration a moneyed aristocracy dangerous to the liberties of the country. So we mentioned here a gentleman by the name of Frank Buzzio. So let's pull up Frank's work. He has a great piece of work here on Mises.org. You should see that document on your screen now. And the title of this is To Tax is to Destroy. And as you can see here, he cites this McCulloch versus Maryland case. And basically what this guy is doing, Mr. Frank Buzzio, he's basically saying it's unconstitutional to tax people. That's basically his argument. You tax the public, you tax the people, you don't have money to invest, et cetera, et cetera. That's basically theft is his argument. And it's a common argument from the Mises people, Mises followers. So if you scroll down here to the column, the paragraph, it says the power to tax destroys prosperity. I'll read just 3 paragraphs here, and then we'll go into my next source, which may be alarming or should be alarming. It says here, the power to tax destroys prosperity. Quite simply, if one is taxed, he has less money either to invest or to spend. The higher the tax rate, the more money is taken from those individuals who can invest and create economic opportunity for themselves and others. An accumulation of capital is essential to increase the productive capacity of a nation. Therefore, it is important to understand the true meaning of savings. Savings. When money is deposited in a bank, it is usually lent out to someone else. The money is then used to either invest in business expansion or to purchase the products produced by business, cars, television, boats, etc. An accumulation of wealth is essential for a prosperous economy. Now he cites here, he says, Cuba does not allow an accumulation of wealth. It was recently reported in the press that the Cuban leadership would now allow limited monetary payment to employees. However, the Communist administration will still not allow anyone, except themselves, of course, to accumulate wealth. Is there any doubt as to why there is a capital formation and viable industry on that island? Why there is no capital formation and viable industry on that island? Now, this was written in 2011. I'm not sure what laws were passed since then that would allow people to save their money in Cuba. But what I can tell you is if you want to know why Democrats are not popular in the state of Florida, it's because a lot of Cubans are there. And Cubans, when they hear the words democracy and socialism, they know this is communism. They know this is communism. They don't want nothing to do with it. They will vote for Trump. They will vote for DeSantis. They will vote for a Republican all day, every day, because they know what communism looks like. These people aren't stupid. OK, they've experienced communism on the Cuban island and they want nothing to do with it. Now, other people have other opinions on that, which I would say are unfounded, not rooted in history, and lay little evidence of being prosperous for anyone except for the state. So we talked about an accumulation of wealth, right? So let's go to my next source and let's bring this up on the screen. Now, just so you guys don't think I'm doing a little funny business, this is from the Telegraph UK. You see here, hoarding Bitcoin to be banned over bank-run fears under Sunak's digital currency proposals. Now, I know many of you are conservatives and you don't like crypto and all this other stuff, and I get it. All I hear is somebody who's just pretty much uneducated on the matter. And when you're uneducated on something, you probably shouldn't invest or you shouldn't partake in it. However, I wouldn't talk bad about it. And many conservatives right now, I got to tell you, have been indoctrinated by communists. Communism is basically centralization. When you look at the 10 planks of communism, the term centralization appears at least 3 times, I want to say. And the entire point of cryptocurrency is to be decentralized, not to be confused with Sam Bankman-Fried or Sam Bankman-Fraud and his debacle. That is not cryptocurrency. What he was practicing is not cryptocurrency. What he was practicing was traditional banking, basically lending out assets. People who kept their assets on that platform actually had no assets and were not practicing true decentralized cryptocurrency. They were allowing Sam Bankman-Fried to be the have custodial powers. And he controlled their cryptocurrency. They didn't exactly possess it. I'm not going to go into how to possess your cryptocurrency and all that. You guys can go do your research on that. You can sign up at bitcoinmysteryschool.com to understand these things. But let's continue. So, with or without your consent, there will be a central bank digital currency here in the United States. It's already underway. Yesterday, I got a notification from Coinbase. Coinbase said they are now allowing you're going to earn a yield on any USDC you hold or you allow them to hold on Coinbase, which tells me, well, really, I was tipped off by JAG. JAG basically said the CBDC is already here. It's called the USD, United States Digital Coin, USDC. It's already here. We're already using it. Many people are using it. If you're not using that, you're using Tether. But either way, it's here. But the fact that Coinbase, after we just saw the crap show with SBF and many other people doing the yield farming thing, it looks like they're going to allow you to earn interest. It was small, though. I think it was like 1.15 or something like that, 1.1. I forget what it was. Very small yield, but you could earn yield by holding USDC on a Coinbase platform. Anyway, now let's hop into this article here. It says hoarding Bitcoin. So like I said, CBDC is coming. As you can see here, UK gets it first. You get it next. And it's already in many nations right now. Nigeria, China, Jamaica, many different nations. India already have a CBDC installed. The implementation has, or I should say the adoption is not that high in many places. I know it's a lot higher in China, but places like Jamaica and Nigeria, adoption is really low right now. And they're trying to figure out how to make the public adopt it. Anyway, let's continue. It says here, hoarding Bitcoin to be banned over bank run fears under Sunak's digital currency proposals. Now, we just talked about how Cuba said, yo, you can't save your money. Well, guess what? Guess what this CBDC is threatening? Threatening you from, well, saving your money. So it says frictionless digital transfers may increase the risk of commercial banking collapses. So again, this is them choosing the bank over the people. Let's continue. It says consumers will be blocked from hoarding, and hoarding could be synonymous with saving, from hoarding new digital pounds issued by the Bank of England because officials fear a run on high street banks, according to a consultation paper that suggests a new form of money could be introduced by 2030. So this says 7 years away. I think that's a decent estimation. I believe they will find a way to make it to speed it up. But anyway, let's continue. Governor Andrew Bailey and Chancellor Jeremy Hunt revealed a roadmap on Monday night for creating a new central bank digital currency, CBDC, dubbed Bitcoin in the press, that could enter circulation by the end of this decade. Now, real quick, let's just add a date here so you know when this was written. This is February 6, 2023. That's this year, a month ago, literally a month ago. It comes after the Telegraph revealed the pair would throw their weight behind its creation, saying a digital currency will likely be needed in the future as cash continues to decline. It is understood that Britons will initially be limited to transferring a few thousand digital pounds into their account under plans being drawn up. The limit will be imposed in order to prevent large and rapid outflows from traditional high street banks. If anybody is involved in crypto, you know how easy it is to transfer or trade these things. And nobody can stop you. It's a protocol. You hit the button and it goes. There's no bank. There's no paperwork to sign. It's gone. So this is what they fear. This is why Congress and everybody else fears cryptocurrency, because basically it can just basically suck the money out of your country, suck the money out of the bank. It can absolutely do that. It empowers the people and takes the power away from banks. You take your pick which one you'd like to see. Anyway, officials fear that the frictionless nature of digital money would allow people to shift their wealth almost instantly between accounts, giving rise to the risk that banks would quickly collapse if they find themselves under stress and customers begin to withdraw their funds. So before we continue, I'd like to ask you, if they can stop you or they can put limits on this digital coin, what else will they do? What else will they do? Do you trust them? What other limits will they put on us? And we've written, if you type in CBDC on menoforder.com, go do your research there. Go to menoforder.com, in the search, type in CBDC, and go read the articles about Biden's digital coin and the project coming out of MIT, Project Hamilton. Anyway, let's continue here. Mr. Hunt insisted on Monday that protecting financial stability was a top priority, adding that cash is here to stay. Now, remember, he says cash is here to stay. Keep that in mind. Make that a bookmark as we read through this. It says here, a limit on individuals' holdings would apply at least to the introductory phase. Now, when I read that, you know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of toll roads. In the state of New Jersey, they installed these tolls. And what the state said was, these tolls are temporary. We're only going to take a toll until the roads are paid off. Well, guess what? The roads have long been paid off, and the tolls are still there. Now they have this thing called Easy Pass. Everybody just charges at the Easy Pass and they go. So it was supposed to go away, but they said, you know what? We're making so much money, or whatever reason it is. The tolls are there. So when they say here, this would apply at least to the introductory phase, meaning it could apply to other phases. Do you trust them to limit this to the introductory phase? That's what I'm asking you. Do you trust them? I want you to answer in the chat. I want you to answer in the comments. Do you trust them to limit this into the introductory phase? Anyway, it says this would strike a balance between both encouraging use and managing risks, such as the potential for large and rapid outflows from banking deposits into digital pounds. These limits could be amended in the future. Could be. Another loophole. They're good with their words. Mr. Hunt and Mr. Bailey emphasized that CBDCs offer a new way to pay for consumers. Bank and Treasury officials believe it will promote competition and lead to cheaper financial services. The bank will provide a platform for private sector companies to provide financial services. However, officials are not exploring a route that will allow people to open an account at the Bank of England. So there are accounts for the private sector, financial services, but as for you, hold off. Officials stress that any state-banked digital currency would sit alongside cash and be worth the same as its banknote equivalent. Everybody knows this from stablecoins. However, the plans are likely to fuel fears that banknotes could one day disappear altogether. Now, remember what they said? Cash is here to stay. But there's articles here, and I'll hit it, let you guys see it. It's an article right here from the Telegraph. This is written in 2022. Cash has just 5 years left, warns ATM boss. So this article says. You can go read that on your own time. I'm not going to dive into that right now. Let's go back. Actually, no, we're done with that. I'm not going to read any more. So, what did we learn today? We learned one thing, one major thing. Communism. It's here. It's been here. It has been here for a long time. Shout out to Kamar. He posted that link to the Men of Order article in the chat. Go hit that. Eric Reitz says, What does free man or landowner mean anymore? Not suggesting that we should sacrifice the good in pursuit of the perfect, but what are we fighting for precisely? Good question. Good question, Eric. Who's the guy that does those Freeman lectures? Anyway, Jonah Ryan, he says, even on White House website that calls Jackson's inauguration modern day Saturnalia. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take this presentation. I want you to share it far and wide. Shout out to Jimmy Doss and good folks over there at Hotep TV on Rumble. I want you to take this presentation, share it far and wide, educate people on the implications of the 10th Amendment, Constitution, communism, cryptocurrency, CBDC, and all things looming for our future. My name is...
That Hotep Jesus dude.
I love y'all, man. Hotep, be safe.
Didn't listen to me then, I bet they feel me now. Time don't let me lose it. The booth not about to prove it. I set goals and pursue it. You the best to never do it. Invest my money, talking fluent, stupid, ducking the Judas. It broke my heart, but over my eyes, you have no honor, I have no choice. Chasing the commas till I'm gone. I've been left for a minute. On my way home, mama, I promise, got caught up in it. Damn. Everybody eats when I'm batting at the plate. First, second, third, home, $1 million base.
Jackson,